And in the Impact segment tonight, a reaction to my talking points memo. Join us from Washington, Charles Krauthammer. So let's take the Congress declaring war on Islamic terrorism first. Do you think that's a good idea?
It's a good idea, but it'll make no difference whatsoever. It's all, look, it'll make us perhaps feel better, and it may make it easier for lawyers to approve certain measures. But look, either you have a president who wants to wipe them out, or you don't. You can pass all the laws in Congress you want.
But I'm looking down the road to the next president, quite frankly.
The next president will have to make a speech, explain that he or she is going to do something really different, ask for an authorization from Congress,
right,
and we'll get it immediately.
But you see, I don't think people understand, and I agree with you, that thing would pass outside of Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid. Everybody else would vote for it because their political careers would be destroyed if they didn't. But what it does is it gives more power to people investigating guys like Omar Mateen to isolate them. They become prisoners of war. They become treasoners. You can do many, many more things than you can in a civil, libertarian, law enforcement atmosphere, can you not?
Well, look, the declaration of war, essentially, what was called the authorization for the use of force, that was done after 9/11, gave us a lot of power in the Afghan field. But then you got a president who came in 2009 with the law still on the books and decided that the war on terror was a bad idea, and he was going to end it.
And he didn't want to do anything about it. But I'm talking about more internally. See, look, as I said in the talking points, you're not going to stop the McVeighs and the Boston Marathon guys and this guy. You can't stop everybody. But the FBI is good, and the other intelligence agencies are good. And if they had more power that they would under a War Powers Act, then you could really put some damage on these lone wolves, they call them.
Bill, what I'm trying to explain to you is that the power and the actual use of the power by the FBI is not going to come from another law. The example I was trying to give you before you interrupted me was that under the law in Afghanistan, we have been not interrogating prisoners because we have a president who doesn't believe in that, wants to put everybody in a New York cell where they get a lawyer and they get the Miranda rights instead of in Guantanamo. So it's not going to be the law. It's going to be the directions from the president,
all right,
whoever that is.
But again,
and that president, if they're serious, will pass a law. If not, they won't.
I'm looking down the road now. He's only 6 more months of Barack Obama, you know, and then he becomes a lame duck. So we get a consensus of the country. That's what you need. You need Democrats and liberals to join on, too.
And that's all up to the president.
Well, Barack Obama's not going to lead on the issue. He showed it today.
We agree. It's on the next president.
Right.
That president will either lead or will not.
He won't. So now, of the two, Trump is pounding the table, all right, big issue for him, and he comes in right after you. But Hillary Clinton seems tougher than Obama, but what's your measure on her?
Well, just looking at the history, what we know from the internal deliberations, she was much tougher during the internal deliberations, particularly on a place like Syria, for early intervention when there really was an opposition that was capable, and for doing something that might have been decisive. Obama was not. We know what happened. On the withdrawal from Iraq, I think she went along, but I think if she had been given the choice, meaning if she were president, it's likely that her foreign policy would be far more hawkish. I think Sanders has been correct. Basically, he accused her of being that during the campaign, and I think he was right. Look, if you go back, and what template do we have here? To her husband's administration, he was a lot tougher than we would have expected, and the 1990s were relatively successful in terms of foreign policy.
Yet he allowed al-Qaeda to rise in power, to establish their camps in Afghanistan. He blew up a pill factory when he got in trouble because he wasn't really effective in stopping the growing jihad. But be that as it may, Hillary Clinton made a mistake in Libya. She didn't have the vision to understand what would happen after Gaddafi was removed. So yeah. I think the jury is still out on her.
And Trump supported that mistake. And I was as vocal as anyone in the 1990s in decrying the unseriousness of Clinton's response to al-Qaeda. But let's remember You know, I saw it. A lot of people saw it. But before 9/11, it was not a popular argument to get tough on al-Qaeda. So, I mean, you lay the blame at Clinton's feet. But overall, I think he did a pretty good job in foreign policy. And if that's the template that we're using, for Trump to accuse her on Libya, I think is rather hypocritical, since he obviously vocally, publicly supported it.
All right. Charles Krauthammer, everybody, as always, thank you for a good debate.